however you get those people in the door, because we're looking for really motivated people with problems, and we're basically sending out marketing, postcards, and direct mail to them to get them in the door. So however you get these people in the door, that's what you have to do. You know what I mean? However we get that deal to our doorstep for us to be able to switch over from marketing to sales, that's what we got to do.
This is the real estate investing experience. We get it. Real estate can be rough sometimes, and that's why we bring in the experts to talk about the experiences you won't hear anywhere else with your hosts, John Cohen and Chris Grinzik.
What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Real Estate Investing Experience. I'm your host, Chris Grenzig, and with me as always is John Cohen. John, how you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm not in the office today. I was on baby duty, but I'm doing good. I got no complaints.
Yeah, I was pretty happy she was on the last one, made a nice little appearance, and then now she's gone. So I was expecting two. Our guest Matt has one as well. I thought we'd have two extra guests, but I guess not. So
no, there's only three of us. We little baby Lucy made her debut on one of the earlier episodes. I was expecting her to be here as well. We were gonna have two sub 7-month-olds, crushing it on the podcast today, but we got saved by our wives, and it's only three of us, so yeah. No one cares about that.
Yeah, exactly. So if you're watching on YouTube, you missed out. You got three ugly ducklings instead. So, yeah. With that being said, let's dive right into it. Let's get it going. We got a great guest on today, Matt. I know you guys have known each other for a while. I know less, so it's going to be newer to me as well. I'm going to talk to us about a bunch of things. Not really sure where he's going to go with it, but it'll be interesting. Instead of doing the intro myself, Matt, why don't you tell everybody who you are, what you're about, what you're doing, and all that good stuff.
What's up, guys? Yeah, thank you for having me on. I'm a real estate hobbyist. Started out that way, and now I'm flipping 2 to 3 houses a month.
There you go.
And it's just how it goes into that. Known John for a long time. Did some deals together. Still doing deals together, actually. So it's crazy how that works. I mean, we bought a mobile home park together, a small one, but a good one. I've invested in several multifamily deals, and I think we're currently seeing what we can do next in real estate. So, yeah, happy to be here. I'm stoked, and it's awesome that you guys are doing a podcast, because the real dudes are doing a podcast, not just these jokers out here talking about it. They're actually doing it, so that's awesome.
That's Chris. I'll tip my hat. I'm very anti this, but yeah. Chris pushed us out we're doing it. And we're having fun with it now. We're trying to be a little bit different than everyone else out there. We're doing no scripts, unedited, raw. And if anyone knows me, there's no, I'm not going to hide anything. You're going to love me or hate me, but that's it. I don't care. But no, we're excited. I lied to you earlier. You're not the first wholesaler flipper we had. That was a blatant lie. I thought about it. We had a couple of other guys on there. I don't even know why I thought otherwise, but no, it's going to be fun. We're going to, I don't know where this is going to go, but I think, one thing I can say, and this is something that I think everyone should take to take it to the bank. Matt picked up the phone on a random website and he met me, and I was doing a deal in Charleston, and can I come? And I said, yeah, sure, come on down. He saw the property and made a phone call. Just talk about massive action quickly. That's, how we met. You break it down one further, Matt was a young male who picked up the phone and called another young male from the internet, and we met up offline. Like, that's
when you put it like that.
but that's how it started. Matt was cutting his teeth in real estate.
Hey, we don't judge here.
Exactly. And I had done some deals, and he basically just asked for some help, and it was, hey, can you help me? And I was like, yeah, absolutely, buddy. I think that giving back is part of this business. One thing that we've done really well, and that's how it started. I mean, that's sort of how we got going. And next thing you know, it was a phone call at the property. An investor shows up at the property, wrote a check, bought a deal. Lo and behold, fast forward a couple of years, 4 years or whatever it is. It's like the property that keeps giving. We joke around through text. I'm like, sent you a check. And it's always, I sent you a check. I love checks. And then Matt sends me a check, and I love checks. And And that's how it started. And it's been really fun.
No, that's awesome. Matt, I know John just kind of gave it briefly, and I've heard it a couple times from his point of view, but he alluded to the start of the relationship and kind of, it sounds like, your path getting into real estate. Can you dive into a little bit deeper from your side what that was like and how that led to that deal in Charleston?
Yeah. So, I started dicking around in real estate, I guess, in like 20, like literally right out of school. I remember I went to Raymond James thinking I was going to be a big time investor.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized that guy was a schmuck and had no idea what he was talking about. So I was like, well, how am I going to make like a bunch of money, before I turn 30? And I read every real estate book and every podcast imaginable. And I was finally like, okay, you got to meet somebody actually doing this. And so I poked around the internet, and John had always, every time he was talking to somebody online, it was no like sugar-coated BS. It was like, this is what it is. And he was like, just spit the facts. And that was something that I really liked, because I can't stand people that just, talk about the big picture, whatever. And it's like, they never get down to like actually what's going on. So long story short, I started I like messaged John all creepy. Like, I was like, hey, what can I do for you? And John basically, John is, hey, bring me cash or bring me deals, bring me something. And so, he was down in Charleston. I was like, man, I just want to come down and check it out. And I think we actually had a phone call beforehand. And John was like, hey, I'm doing a deal in Charleston. Do you know anybody that's got some money? And I was like, yeah. I was like, I think my buddy's dad might be interested in that. He lives down there. And so long story short, I gave this guy a call, never talked to him before, just hung out with his son, drank a few beers. And gosh, yeah, it's been 4 years now, but yeah, fast forward, he invested in that deal. You guys smoked it with the returns, freaking awesome. And I think that guy's in several deals now, right?
Yeah, he put money into another deal that was another good return, and he 1031 the profit from that first deal into two other deals. One we refied and one we're selling. I joke around. There's three investors in the deal, the original deal. There was three investors. Two of the investors were my co-sponsors or co-GP. They were my partners. I say it's the Mike, Bill, and Burke effect. Basically, they touch a deal and it just goes in a direction that's ungodly. You want to buy a deal, just buy whatever they're buying or investing. So far, everyone that they've touched, it's make believe. Like the first deal was, I pulled up the pro forma today. We couldn't have been more wrong. There was no expectation of hitting the number we hit. No. And it was supposed to be a long-term personal portfolio deal. It was supposed to be something we bought and never sold. 80 units, Johns Island, gorgeous market. It's a legacy deal. 18 months. It was gorgeous. It was gorgeous. It was one of those properties that I don't belong at. Like the deals we buy. I'm breaking up a little.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, but that was a sweet name. Go ahead.
I was going to say, it's just a deal that it was a legacy deal. Lo and behold, the guy came knocking on our door and boom, great return. And we 1031'd it into a deal that's a legacy, a deal that was a heavier lift. But it was just, timing in the market couldn't have been better. That's part of real estate. It's Matt, he was trying to figure it out, and he made a call. He caught me at a good time. Chris has a similar story. A little bit different. It wasn't a timing thing. It was more of it might have been a timing thing. But I think it's just a matter of, putting yourself in a position for timing to be on your side, right? Because people say, well, that was just luck. Well, was it luck or was it, trying some stuff? And I think that's where, if you didn't make the call, the timing wouldn't have worked. So it was not having fear and making that call and seeing what happened.
I mean, honestly, I don't think you could have said that better because, you say it's luck, but at the same time, it was just a combination of like, I will do whatever to get my feet in the door doing this, right? I'll do whatever I can. And so that was like at the point where, I called 7 or 8 people, and everybody's like this and that, humming and hawing. And some of them didn't have money and I thought they did. Everybody's got money until you ask for it and then they magically don't have any. But it was just one of those situations where it all came together. But, it did take a few years, a lot of frustration for me just to even get to, that point to be able to, to be able to have that happen. Yeah, a little bit of luck, absolutely. I'd rather be lucky than good any day.
There you
go.
That's everybody.
At the same time, you can't discount the fact, how great the property did, how great the turnaround was. And, you show a guy like that who's maybe been taken advantage of before by other business guys in the past. He's worked hard for his money, built his company from the ground up. You take his money and you make that kind of money with it. I mean, you've got an investor that's going to keep going back for life. Yep. That was so cool. Me just being a part of it was awesome because I learned a lot. But
real quick, because I'm
good too.
Yeah, real quick, because I think it's interesting because we were talking about this today and we talk about it all the time about like how, John just alluded to, everybody's got money until it's time to write a check and how easy people think it is to raise money. You just alluded to it, 7-8 calls. What was it like for you trying to raise money for a deal that, you talk about it with, if it's a home run deal, it's not, easy to just go out there and raise money. This was basically that. Talk about a little bit going through the conversations you were having with people, and then, what changed from the first 7-8 people to actually, getting the guy through the finish line and, writing a check for the deal.
Honestly, I think that person has to be kind of willing to almost accept something different. Mm-hmm. So I've always felt like it's when you start working with people who are used to doing something a little bit different. Like this guy's a small business, or well, I guess a big business owner actually. We're in a large company, but that guy knows that just giving your money to Raymond James isn't the way like he wanted to do things. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So, but everybody else you're talking to, like, I know everybody in the real estate business talks about get these people with these, IRAs and this, that, and the other. Well, those people are almost so like glassed over by the whole mutual fund thing. Like, oh, just put your money in mutual fund, give it, $100, $1,000, $5,000 a month, and don't really worry about what happens. Don't worry about if you lose money. Just hang on, and then one day when you die, you might have some money there. But there's really no guarantee. But the stock market always goes up, right? Well, you've got to find somebody who's a little bit like dissatisfied with that whole notion. I think once you find that and then you show them multifamily, it's a fairly easy sell as long as you know what you're talking about to answer whatever questions they may have. You know what I mean? But that was what I found. Like when you talk to these people, if they're already with they've either got to be fed up with doing the whole mutual fund deal, 401k type thing. They've got to be already fed up with that. Or they just like got their money somewhere else. Like, I don't trust these people. And then you can say, hey, I don't trust them either because I don't. Mm-hmm. That's what I found. It's the easiest conversation to have. So maybe introduce another investor to you guys soon, man, because I've been talking to this guy the other day at the car wash. Owns a big trucking company. Sitting there washing his Mercedes. I was washing my pickup truck, and we were just having that conversation. He's like, effing guys on Wall Street, blah, blah. I was like, yeah. What do you do? I do this and that. So we're trying to get together for lunch if I can make our schedules line up. But those are really the people you've got to find that I felt that I've been able to resonate with.
And I think that's an important from a money raising standpoint. I've been good at it. Am I great at it? The jury will say that. But
master.
I tell people all the time, and Matt touched on it. You can't make a guy write a check. It's impossible. Mm-hmm. I can be the best salesman in the world. I can show you the best pro forma in the world. I can show you a track record that's amazing. If you don't want to do it, you're not going to do it. And that's where money raising becomes a challenge for most, is that you the guy says no, or the girl says no, and you say, what could I have done differently? And it might not have been you. You might have done everything the way it could have gone. The thing with money raising is, Chris said, you make 1 call, you make 2 calls, you make 3 calls, you make 4, you make 5. Maybe it's the 7th guy that is not, hey, it's got to be it's time. So you can't just expect you're going to pick up the phone and the first person you're going to call is going to write a check. You got to, build these relationships over time, and you got to have the right person on the other end of the phone, the other side of the table, whatever it is. And it doesn't happen on one phone call. Even that first call that Matt made that got the investor out to the property, we still, he didn't write a check there. We went out to dinner. We spoke. We went on the phone. I spoke to his accountant. I spoke to his lawyer. I had to speak to his wife. there was a process, and people want to cut out the process. And I think that's the part that you got to do. You just got to make sure that you button everyone up and explain to them everything. And you can't make someone write a check. It's impossible.
Mm-hmm.
Impossible. The process too, man. That's so important. Not just for like a Cal and I. This what you said, as I tell Cal almost every day when I talk to my acquisitions guy here in the office. Like, just because we send out mail, just because we send out market, somebody calls in, that doesn't mean that you're going to get a deal just like that. And if you do, it's probably not going to be a great deal. All right. Your lay down deals are never your best deals. It's a process, and it is talking to these people, and you're never going to make them sell their house for 50 cents on the dollar. Oddly enough, all our deals we do are houses for 50 cents on the dollar. And, the way you get to that is by talking to that person, understand their situation and where they're coming from, and then really follow up, talking from there. What's the next steps? Why can't you sell me this property for this price? And on and on and on. It's literally never a one-time call it. And like, even if it wasn't for there, like you basically did a lot of the heavy lifting on that phone call, that specific one, just because I wasn't qualified at the time to even be talking about, half of that stuff. I was just getting my feet wet. But you're absolutely right. Like, it takes time to build those relationships with people. Mm-hmm. And that's part of, like, on the money raising side, what you go against a little bit. You go against, Raymond James and Edward Jones and all these people who, have fancy little offices and, talk real pretty and act pretty and have, fancy little suits and, they talk about this long-term vision. You trust those kind of people because they're like, 50 years old with gray hair. And like it was for me when I called my guy and I was like, hey, I'm trying to track what my return is going to be if I invest in this mutual fund. Here's my spreadsheet. What do you think? And his comment was like, oh, I don't really know a whole lot about spreadsheets. I don't mess around with the computer that much. It's like, well, how are we going to do this then? Like, it makes no sense, No,
but it's interesting because the money raising side is one part. I think, where Matt's background right now is, he's doing fix and flips and some wholesales and doing some deals. And I think, what you touched on is what I tell people in the office every day. You pick up the phone and cold call someone trying to buy a property, or you send out a mailer and they respond with a yes. That's a shit deal 9 out of 10 times because, exactly. They said yes to you. They're saying yes to every single person that calls them.
Yeah.
And they just keep increasing the price. Can you touch on, a little bit more about, where you're at today? And I think tell people, how that success has happened, because, the wholesaling fix and flip is that shiny on. Chris has a background in it, or an educational background in it. I did it.
Failed background.
A failed background. I did it, hated it. And did not do it successfully. 2 years ago, we flipped a house in Charleston and took a bath. Partially because we had an incompetent person on the other end, and partially because we got greedy with what we thought we could make. But talk about where it started and why it's as successful as it has been. Because like the why behind it, and it wasn't just I sent out more mailer. Matt's educated himself. He's taken some time. He's tried some stuff. But you can go into that a little bit more detail, because I think people want to hear, they send out a mailer and they got nothing in return. Should I just quit? Or what should I do going forward? I think that's something that people like.
Yeah. So that, that's like, there's two sides to that. And here's the big picture of that. And this is what I've really learned over the last 2 years. Like I didn't have a business till earlier this year. It was just me basically hustling my ass off, trying to make money. I didn't have a legit business. Dynamic home buyers didn't really become dynamic home buyers till earlier this year, when I made a decision to hire an acquisition specialist, somebody that could just do the hustle full time. But back up before that, this whole real estate game, like everything macro picture, big picture, if you want to be successful in real estate, you have to have deal flow. Like everything goes back to deal flow. How are you going to get deals? And what are you going to do to do that? So a lot of people go the broker route. I know it's very common in multifamily to go the broker route. And that's a huge thing for that. But here, at least in single family, if you want to get into fix and flips, well, if you go out there and try to do it with realtors, every market that's worth being in right now is so heated up that you're going to have to dig these deals up on your own somehow, some way. All right. So you are not going to be able to pound the market until you find something, unless you want the table scraps left over for everybody else. You know what I mean? Like that's kind of a lot of what we do. We'll put something like half-ass right there on the market, and then some other flipper can have it. You know what I mean? Did a deal like that earlier this year. Just cleaned it up and put it right back on the market. So you're literally competing with every Tom, Dick, and Harry who just read a real estate book if you went out there on market. And believe it or not, a lot of these people have plenty or grandpa who's been saving all their life, and they're like, hey, I want to flip houses. And they show them, a TV show, and they're like, they get family all excited, and they take money and they either lose it or they, don't make any money, whatever the case may be. You know what I mean? It happens all the time. So that's who your competition is out there in the market. Now, the hardest thing to do, and this is what most people don't want to do, is build relationships. The downside to that, to building relationships, if you got to deal with all sorts of people's issues. I mean, just an outrageous amount of problems. Okay. But once you get good at doing that in this business, in the residential side with, single family homes, you get kind of used to it. And then it becomes where you're starting to, when we have in our office, we have the hot top 10 and the warm 40. The hot top 10 means who's going to convert in the next 30 days. The warm 40 is who's going out 60 or 90 days. Okay. Maybe their problem. And that's all by people's problems. Like, somebody's died, I can't pay for this property. Like, if I don't sell this house by then, this will happen. Those are in the hot top 10. We literally call those people every single day. Every single day we know what they had for breakfast. We know their whole life story. You know what I mean? Because we're here to help them. Now, that's hard because you got to spend a lot of time on the phone dealing with a lot of people's issues. And some of them are really stupid problems. Like, really stupid. Like, some of these people are just like awful. But anyways, that's what you have to deal with to get that deal at 50 cents on the dollar. You know what I mean? But when you rack up enough of those, you're going to start having stuff that we see now just converting, every week or two, we're having a nice deal convert. You know what I mean? So like the long story short of that is however you get those in our business, however you get those people in the door, because we're looking for really motivated people with problems. And we're basically sending out marketing, postcards, and direct mail to them to get them in the door. So however you get these people in the door, that's what you have to do. You know what I mean? However we get that deal to our doorstep for us to be able to switch over from marketing to sales, that's what we got to do. You know what I mean? And that works that way for any kind of real estate. It doesn't have to be, you have to have people. You have to be working with people in this game because somebody else probably always going to own the real estate. Like, even if you're in development, building something brand new, somebody still owns the land that you got to deal with. You know what I mean? And you have to have deal flow. That's just how we have deal flow. We look for motivated people and we market to them. When they call us, we put them in our buckets and we work through their problems with them to get a deal.
That's beautiful. Now, is it an overnight process? Because I think people read a book.
God, no. We're looking in there. So I still love to buy little brick ranch 3-1s as rentals. Like, if you show me a brick ranch 3-1 under 80K in this market, I'll buy it like tomorrow. If it doesn't, like, I want to be all in for 80K. As you can imagine though, there's not many brick ranch rentals out there in Myrtle Beach for 80K. I mean, there's hardly any of them. And the ones that are there are, just run down pieces of junk. Well, we got one that's worth 140. We got her locked in verbally for 62.5, and then she ghosted us. And I was just looking yesterday, and Cal has called that lady like 42 or 44 times that he is determined to get her back on the phone and in the door, like no matter what. Calls, emails, like nonstop, and he will not leave her alone. Like I tell him all the time, like one of the models we have around here is there's no such thing as beating a dead horse. Like, until they tell you that you beat that horse, and if you firmly believe in your heart, it's dead. I want you to beat it at least 15 more times until you chop it in half. You know what I mean? There's no such thing as beating a dead horse. Like, you just call them over and over and over and market to them over and over and text blast, email blast, direct mail over and over again until they either convert or they tell you, leave me alone, I'm going to sue you.
Yep. So I think that's important because that's where people fail. That's where people fail in real estate because they read a book, they go to a networking event. Some guy told them how he wholesaled a deal and made $100,000 in an hour and a half. And next thing you know, 3 months later, they haven't gotten one piece of traffic in the door. So, I think it's good for people to hear that, that's a perfect example. If that lady ever gets back to you, it's worth 140, you're buying it at 60, whether it's a rental, a flip, a wholesale, whatever it is, it's a deal that's going to take time. And that's the, I think everything, but everybody thinks real estate is a get rich quick scheme when it's actually almost the complete opposite. It's a get rich slow scheme. And, whether you're wholesaling, buying rentals, whatever it is, no matter what your strategy you pick is, you can't think you're going to come out of the box, and try and run a 2-hour marathon. It just doesn't work that way. So I think that, that's good for people to hear that, it's not, listen, I've known Matt, there was, we've worked together on I funded a couple direct mail campaigns early on. And it's not an overnight process. And, where Matt is today, when we first spoke, like you said, it was a hobby. It was something that he just was interested in. And 4 years later, 5 years later. So I think people listening to this got to understand that it can happen quickly, but it's only going to happen as quickly as the effort you put into it. That's just bottom line.
That is so true. That is so true. And I'll tell you, and yeah, thank you for that. This will actually be the first year, 2019, where I'm actually banking real money in my pocket, because I initially got into this to just say, I need to make fast cash to pay off all. I can smelling like a rose, had zero student debt. Caroline came out unbeknownst to me until we got back from our honeymoon with over $100,000 in student debt. That hit me like a heart attack. I was like, what? Yeah, because she was like, oh, we got like, $40,000 or $50,000 in student debt. I was like, okay, all right, that's not super bad. And we got that first bill and it was like $102,000. I was like, the hell did you do the whole time? School only amounted like $40K, and then your housing was like another 20. Like, so Taco Tuesday is where it happens every single weekend or week.
Yeah,
ridiculous.
No, I think it's important though, because when you were talking about the contact piece, even on the non-direct to owner side, there's a broker in Jacksonville that I'd been talking to regularly, and I hadn't been able to get a hold of him for like the last 2 months. And I just kind of took my foot off the gas, stopped calling him. He just sold 2 off-market deals, one of which we almost had under contract and missed on. And it's like the fucking slap in the face that I was like, fuck, like, God damn it. I knew the whole time I wasn't doing it good enough. And then it's like I got 2 consecutive emails within like a couple hours. And I was like, fuck. Like those are the exact deals we would have bought or should have bought. And I'm like, fuck, that's on me for not calling him enough, even though he's not getting back to me. It wasn't like I didn't call him, left him voicemail, shot him text messages. And there was always, hey, I was doing this, I was doing that. But, shame on me for not calling him more to try to push that relationship along. And then maybe that deal would have fallen in our lap instead of neither one probably would have actually fallen to us for various reasons. But still, those are 2 perfect opportunities that we would have bought in a market we're continuing to try to buy in. And it's because I didn't get in touch with him enough that we didn't get those deals. I didn't even see those deals from him. It's not like we didn't even win them.
Yeah,
I didn't even see them.
That's the thing. Like, especially on y'all end where deal flow is primarily driven by brokers because you're with sophisticated or a more sophisticated seller. Like, brokers everywhere are exactly the same, and they have to deal with a lot of bullshit. Like, I would shoot myself. I would be a janitor before I was a real estate agent because they have to deal with such BS from the biggest idiots on the planet, which is somebody buying a residential, like an end-use buyer. Mm-hmm. Is insane. So all I was telling Cal my acquisitions guy, did the same thing the other day. I was like, look, if you get an agent on here, we get on it, we're going to text blast them and this, that, and the other and email them, just to see if we can get a deal from them. But, they're like water. They're going to take the easiest path downhill. Mm-hmm. And that's going to be who just called me recently that I know is a cash buyer going to buy this deal. You know what I mean? Because they don't want to do any more work than they have. Mm-hmm. Probably the same in y'all's business too, I'd imagine. It's like, where am I like guaranteed to get this deal sold from? But I know stuff doesn't fall out of contract as much in y'all's stuff as it does here in the, house flipping game, with end use buyers. But, over here, that's a very real concern for an agent on every single deal.
It's on the multifamily side too. I mean,
yeah, I think it happens more than you think.
Yeah, because you got to remember, you're selling $100,000 house. What's the agent going to make? $6-7 grand.
Oh, yeah. They're going to make like 2 or 3. Yeah.
So their level of care, they're on to the next deal already. In a multifamily world where the commission could be 200, 250 grand, 180 grand, that broker may only sell 1 or 2 deals a year. So, when they want to make sure they pick the right buyer to a degree, but, they deals fall apart all day long.
Yeah.
The good brokers are the ones that can spot that, and they don't take a high flyer on a guy that's never closed the deal. So it goes both ways, but at the same time, we're implementing a whole new operating system internally, just from different types of meetings, different goals, different, checks and balances, because I don't want what happened to Chris to happen again. And it wasn't like what happened to Chris is, good, bad, or indifferent. We have 2 other deals in contract, 3 deals
Definitely
in contract.
wasn't good.
Who knows if we would have had the bandwidth to do it. But, there are deals that I look at now, and Chris, he'll forward me a deal, be like, hey, you want to rip this broker because he was wrong? And I'm the first one to call someone out on bullshit. But, there are deals that we're looking at that I followed up on. I'm like, our offer was 11. It sold for 10.4. What happened, right? Why didn't we do a good enough job following up? So, follow up and deal flow are key. And I think the best deal that you're going to do, and maybe if it's already happened to you, Matt, and you can talk about it, is a deal you might have offered on, didn't get it, followed back up, didn't get it. It fell apart, and then you came in and saved the day. And it's just from the consistent follow-up is where the best deal maybe came to the finish line. And that just goes with
so
there you go. I mean, speak about it, because I think that's what people don't understand. Because, I think a lot of younger investors, or newer investors, I shouldn't say younger, a newer investor makes an offer and they're, 100 grand and they don't get the deal, or it falls apart, or they got outbid and they get discouraged. When I say, hey, call that back in 2 months and see what's going on, because your $100,000 offer in 2 months, you might be able to get it for 80. But you got to be persistent. So I don't know if you have any examples or of anything you could talk to on that front.
I got a perfect example right here of a house we're about to list on the market. It's freaking follow-up is key. And so what we do, we try to automate our follow-up as best we can. I don't know if you saw that video I just showed you, man, but we're really just testing that bad boy out, and it's been phenomenal. So, I tell Cal, all to look for is motivation. I don't care what they say they price. I don't care if they own a trailer and they say I want $200,000 for it. If they've got a world of motivation, they are going in the warm or the hot top 10. Like, they're going in there somewhere, depending on what their level of motivation is. Then it's a matter of you talk to them on the phone, decide if you need to take a meeting or not. If not, send them an offer. That process is all automated. You can literally click one button. It generates an offer, sends him an email offer. That creates a task for him to follow back up. He's going to follow back up manually via the phone, and if he decides they still need to be in those lead buckets, then it's literally going to be like a daily or a weekly thing. They're getting a physical phone call saying, hey, I know your Chihuahua, is not doing well. We hope, Fido's doing okay, but we just wanted to see where you were at, how's the house? Were you thinking about moving your mother? Blah, blah, blah. Whatever the case may be, they're going to talk to them. And then, we also have the automated side of the follow-up. That's what, my VA is going to constantly do. So these people are constantly getting mass texts from us saying, hey, how's it going with that house? Did it ever sell? Whatever. Or email, and then we're also still sending them offers in snail mail. So once they get in the pipeline, it's a series of automated follow-ups that's literally never going to stop. Like, never going to stop. Like, I was talking to my acquisition guy, I'm like, it's like a boat motor churner. It's like, we're just constantly trying to churn that water, to see what's going to happen. And I imagine you guys probably have to do the same thing on that broker end. Like, follow-up is key. This deal that I'm looking at right now, go ahead.
I would say, have you shaken one loose that maybe the initial email offer, they said yes, or they said no, and after it went through the process, has anything shaken free that's been, see, look, it was the 18th time we reached them, or the 10th. What can you speak to on that side? Because doing it and not getting results doesn't mean it's bad, because it only takes one result in the future to make it worthwhile. But do you have anything that has taken place from maybe the 10th time you reached out?
Oh yeah, dude. This one I'm looking at right now, that I was like, when you guys first called me, I was on the phone with the contractor, just getting that budget straightened out. That's we're going to list it at $189,000. We did about a little right around $24,000 in rehab. So it wasn't a huge rehab. They had been touched by a previous acquisition manager I employed for about a month. I remember talking to the guy, and he didn't care that much. He's like, it was kind of deal. It was like, oh, I'm just gonna rent it. I'm not gonna take anything less than 150, you know. And then it was like, I remember I offered him 120 without ever even seeing the property. Didn't really follow up with him like I should, because, you know, when you're doing 50,000 things, you can't follow up with these people all the time. You have to have somebody who's your acquisitions point guy, who's just focused on that if you want real deal flow. But anyways, my acquisitions guy called him. My acquisitions guy is named Cal. So I'll just say Cal. When I say Cal, that's my acquisitions dude. So Cal calls him on the phone. It was like 4 or 5 times Cal had reached out to him, and it was like, I'm busy, I'm doing this, that, the other. Catches him one day, and the guy is pissed. Like, I'm pretty sure what's happening. Daughter was with boyfriend. Boyfriend's a schmuck dealing drugs. And it was just, they caught him in a bad day. So the guy was like, I paid $100 for it. You just come give me $100 for it. And we're good to go. So Cal's like, I'm taking a meeting. We happen to have a sales meeting like that morning. So Cal got on the sales meeting, was telling me about it. And I looked at him like, dude, this is a $165,000 house. Like, any way you try to slice that pie, you know what I mean? Actually, turns out it's more like it's all fixed up. Our realtor's like, I'm not listening for anything less than 189. Like, I'm just not going to do it. He's like, we are going to get these numbers. I was like, sweet. Okay. Long story short, though, we got to that point. Cal went there, and I tell Cal, I was like, I don't care what the first offer is. I don't care if it's 30 cents on the dollar. You're going to make $100,000. You always reject that first offer. This is in our business. You know, I was like, because if you just give them what they want, people are going to think they didn't get a good deal. Like, if you go to buy a car, right? And the guy wants $50,000 for the car. You're like, I'll give you 45. He's like, all right, sold. You're going to be like, wait a minute.
Did I leave money on the table?
Why did he just sell that so fast? You know, why did he do that? So Cal's like, man, you know, like, best I can do is 72. Guy's like, oh, no way. You know, go to hell. So they walked around the house a little bit, talked, got to know each other. And Cal's like, look, I can't do 100. Like, what's the best you can do? And he's like, I could do like 95. Like, man, honestly, I'm really at like 76. It's whatever. Back and forth. And then finally, the guy said, I'll do 80. Like, he'd take $80,000. Cal said his heart was about to jump out of his chest. And I was like, that's fantastic. We bought this thing at 80. We're selling it at 189. We put $25,000 into it, you know, and I'm looking at the net, and this is an estimated net, like, you know, if it takes X amount of months to sell and my financing costs. But this deal is going to net to me, after paying Cal, realtors, fixing up and everything, $49,552. Like, that's net to me before taxes. And it's like, it's all through follow-up. He has been in this pipeline, and this guy's been in this pipeline for over a year, you know? And for over 6 months, nobody touched him because, you know, when you're doing this, you're running around doing 1,000 things. Yeah. You know what I mean? The follow-up was, and always will be, like, no matter what kind of real estate you're trying to buy. I think multifamily, follow up with these brokers constantly. Single family, follow up with these motivated sellers. You know, I'm sure there's people in land or warehouse space or mobile home parks where it's the same kind of deal. You know, I mean, it all comes down to getting deal flow and then follow up. You know, and something will break loose. There's no choice but to break loose at some point.
That was literally the best example you could possibly have given, because that was a deal that took over a year. You're going to put 45 to 50 grand in your pocket. You can go out and get a marketing job. You can go out and go get a job and make $50,000 a year, and it's over the course of a year. Or you could go through this process, get beat up, take all your shots, stand back up, and a deal just falls through the pipeline, and you're going to make the same amount of money. So, but while you're doing that, you got 3, 4, 5 other things in the hopper. And that was the number that Matt needed to make it work. If you're, going backwards, if you're looking to do deals and make $5,000 a deal, that deal could have been done with no follow-up.
Yeah.
But I think that, that's basically exactly what people want to hear. It's just,
Jesus. You just cut out so bad.
Yeah, I'm about to say, are you catching that, Chris? Yeah.
No.
It was,
repeat your last 2 or 3 sentences. You're still. Well, we're going to ignore him for now until it gets better.
No, I think what he was saying, though, was like you have to cut out some of the good, too, to, like, get to the great. Like, when we first started this, like, if I made $5K in a deal, you know, like, if the deal was $5K, not if I only make, like, you know, $2 or $3 grand. When I first started, I thought that was like, oh, my God, that was, like, great money. You know, and I was like, well, if I can do 10 of these a month, I'll be doing good. Well, it takes just as much work to do that little turd deal as it does this deal. In fact, this deal, I might have done less work than I've ever done before. You know what I mean?
That's nice.
And so it's like when you start really understand, like, with the kind of properties you're looking for, you know, then and the kind of spreads you're looking for, then you can kind of work from that. You know, especially in our space when we have so much inventory we can go through. There's so many houses out there. You know what I mean? You just got to find the right owners.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's what there's a lot of people out there, you know, probably scared to go big in multifamily.
Yeah.
But I guarantee you, like, some of the deals y'all do, they probably are just as much work than some of the duplexes that some of these people are buying. You know what I mean? Like,
for sure. I think that's one of the main attractors that, you know, people are looking for is when they're scaling up is a lot of the processes and principles are the same from, you know, 20 to 200 units. It's just more units, more dollar signs, and things tend to take a little bit longer. But the, you know, 80% of the principles are the same from that 20 to 200. I thought it was really interesting, though, the way you touched on motivation. That's like a key driver for you, because that's definitely some of the better deals that, you know, we've done has been not necessarily the price or whatever, but it's the motivation behind it. And when we talk to brokers, one of our, you know, especially on new calls, because it's always like, okay, what are you guys looking for? And everybody's got, you know, the same thing that they're looking for. You know, it's, you know, 60s to 80s build, BC class, value add. But a lot of people will look at deals that were bought 3 years ago and the guy's trying to flip out. And we tell every single broker we talk to, unless there's something else besides that, we're never going to buy that deal. So we always tell them we're really focused on, you know, the story and the background behind it and who the seller is and why they're selling, because 9 times out of 10, that property that has that interesting backstory or some sort of motivation beyond, hey, they've run their business plan, that deal is going to be way more interesting for us and our investors than the deal that the guy, you know, did so many units and just flipped out of it. And, you know, it is what it is. So it's really interesting you say that and that you focus more on motivation than price, because I think, you know, your example that you gave is the perfect example of that, you know, the guy that's motivated to sell, you just catch him at the right day, the right time, or the right opportunity makes a huge difference. And actually, now that I'm saying it and thinking about it, the deal we're buying right now in Jacksonville is the perfect point. There's a group, they own tens of thousands of units across the country, and they're selling a ton of their properties. But they had 3 properties in Jacksonville, and we offered on it probably about 8 months ago. But even before that, I had been calling them and emailing them, trying to get a hold of them to buy it. Offered, nothing happened. Then they sold 2 of them to one group. And the last one was a loan assumption. And that group didn't want to do a loan assumption. So the broker that tried to sell us the portfolio last time called us and said, hey, they got 1 left. They want out. They're done with the market. They've got no reason to stay. They're going to make their money. They're going to do well. But, you know, they know you guys were interested. You know, they know you've been trying to buy this deal or the deals for a while. You know, what do you want to do? We were able to put an offer together quickly, but it was that motivation, everything that I know for sure got us to the pricing that we were at, because they were like, okay, these guys clearly want it and they were motivated to get out. That was it. They were just done. And I think that, you know, we haven't closed on it yet. We haven't done due diligence, but I'm super excited about that deal. I think it's going to do really well. So it's interesting that you touched on that.
The story's huge for us. Yeah. You want to know why, you know what I mean? Like,
for sure.
You do buy a deal where somebody's flipping out of it. You just, okay, well, you know, what are you flipping out of it for? I just want to make a quick buck for my investors. I got to go on the next. Okay, well, whatever, you know, and you know, I was telling John, you know, we were looking, cool, we're trying to, you know, purchase another mobile home park. And sometimes with these owners, I mean, you've got you've got like almost knock on some doors of the tenants of the park to figure out what the story is. But if it's a good, fairly trustworthy guy, you're like, okay, his park looks good. He probably does run it right, even though his books aren't 100%, but that's where the story comes in, and you want to know this guy you're buying this from, because if you're going to make money based on the purchase price. But what you don't know, I feel like, is what they might be trying to cover up. You know what I mean? I think that's where the story is really huge. For us, the story, is, well, why don't you just want to go sell this to a realtor?
Yeah.
I mean, you get a higher price. It might take you longer to sell it. Why don't you just do that? Can't tell you how many times we use that question in the course of the day. We actually push them off. Why don't you just sell to a realtor?
Yeah.
And it's a story that really makes us understand if we have somebody that, or something that we could work with or not.
Yeah. I'm sure that's probably actually a really good tactic, because it's a question probably a lot of home sellers have in their mind. Why wouldn't I do the traditional route and go through a realtor? You can ask that question first, probably puts them on the back foot and, gives you a little bit of leverage over them, because it's like, okay, we both know what you're thinking. We both know this is a reality. So it's, I'm sure it's got to create way better leads than, not asking that question. Have you always asked that question, or was there a time where you started asking it, and did you see any change once you did?
Get over like the first 2 or 3 months of making these phone calls to these sellers and return their calls, you get asked that question by a lot of like pointed sellers. They think they're going to get you backpedaling on your back foot. You know what I mean? Put you in. Well, John, that is loud.
Yeah. You got to stop moving your phone, man.
No, they put you in like a defensive position. That's never where we want to be. We want to be all offense all the time, and all offense all the time. And that's one of the first questions, like, out of our mouth, especially if they even ask it, like, well, I know this realtor. Yeah, that's a great idea. Why don't you just call a realtor? 6, 7, 8, 9 months, they could have that thing sold, and I don't know what you'll actually walk away with, but it probably a higher price. You got to pay closing costs and attorney's fees, and a lot of those deals fall out of contract. But no doubt you could probably get it out there for a higher price. Maybe that's something you ought to do. No, I hate realtors. They they have stale cookies at their open houses. Whatever the case may be. We go right after that to see if we've got a deal or not. Because why would you? Why would you sell your property for 30, 40, 50, 60 cents on the dollar when you can just call a realtor? You know what I mean? But that's the thing. Like, we don't want to deal with anybody who doesn't actually need to sell. And that's our specific business.
Sure.
Doing what we do. Like, because I'm telling you, even if you do put something under contract, and it's a great deal. If you didn't, if they're not really motivated, you know what I mean? Then there's a good chance it'll fall back out, because they could start thinking about it and their family member gets involved. And like, you
for sure.
A home buying company, you could have made so much more money, and dirt. It's just that you have to make sure you've got to motivate, and you've got to understand that story. Like, I bought a house in December last year, and I sold it in January, and it was a solid brick ranch, 3-2, 2,100, 2,200 square feet, right down the road from the house I lived in. And I got there, and she's like, it's really fairly good shape. I want to sell it for 70. Dude, I wish I could show you pictures of this house, man. Like, long story short, I had heroin addicts. Basically no water for 6 months, had heroin addicts pooping in the corner. It was a straight trap house, bro. It was awful. But I get there, and I looked at her, and I was like, she was like, we walked through it, and I ended up, I'll tell you this in a second. This is just nuts, man. But I ended up, walking through the house, sort of through the house with her. I got to the living room, and I was like, I can't be in here any longer. This place reeks. And I didn't want to buy it so bad. She's like, what do you think? I was like, I'll give you $10,000 for this house. And she was like, what? Of course, she said, no way. I'll sell. I was like, you should just try to call a realtor and see what happens. Up with her 2 weeks later. She's like, could you do 25? I was like, no, I could do 11, and then like went something back and forth, and we finally settled on 18. And that was a point where I didn't even want to buy that daggum house. You know what I mean? I only made $20,000 on that house, but I had to fix floor joist and it's sure. 4 30-yard dumpsters.
Wow.
of just straight junk. I mean, I remember I rolled up on the cleaning people that day, and was like, "Hey guys," it was like first day cleaning. They're like, it was two guys in full like mold suits with a face mask and the breathers on. One guy pulls his mask on. He goes, "This your effing house, man?" Yeah. He's like, "What the hell?" Like, dude, I don't know, man. It's awful in there, though. Long story short, I almost threw away a perfectly good pair of shoes. I was walking in there. And I got home, and I was like, "Caroline," I was like, "You never believe this house I just went to." I was like, shoes all about, I was worried about fleas, but I was like, look at this floor. I don't get how there's this much dirt on the floor. Like, I don't even know if I was walking on the floor. I was like, there's so much dirt. I was like, I don't know what's going on here because it walks straight from the concrete to gorgeous green grass, and then you walk into the house. I was like, there's no dirt to track in. And, well, man, she's so cute.
Oh, it's so cute. Yeah. If you guys aren't
see this right now. Yeah, go ahead.
If you're not watching on YouTube, John just got past baby Lulu. So that's what that was. But
oh my God.
Keep going.
It was bedtime.
Oh, important stuff.
Maybe ever. But anyways, long story short, I told Caroline. Caroline goes, "Hun, that's not dirt." I was like, "What could it be?" She's like, "It's dried poop."
Oh my God, that's disgusting.
Oh, it's awful, man. It is awful. Some of the things you see in the business definitely keeps it interesting. I'm sure John can attest to this. I remember John was buying a house or property somewhere. I think it was Ohio, like
probably Columbus.
12 unit or 14 with the bugs.
Oh yeah, that was the 48 unit building I owned. Oh, what a disaster! What a disaster. When we bought it was just it was to date I think the worst thing I've ever seen.
Dude, the video
as far as roaches go.
Yeah, that was the worst video I think I've ever seen.
Dude, the video. You know the video I'm talking about, Chris? Dude.
Oh, I've seen it several times. I'm so happy I didn't know him then, because if I had gone to that property and seen that, I don't think we'd still be working together. I think it probably would have been like the first conversation. Probably would have walked in, seen that, and be like, "Where the fuck did you just bring me?" And I would have turned right back around. I would have gotten on the first plane out of there and been like, this would have been a totally different story. Like, in like an alternate universe, I'm on a different podcast. I'm like, yeah, like I tried real estate one time. You wouldn't believe me. You wouldn't believe the fucking shithole this guy brought me to, bro. There was roaches crawling all over the place. So I'm so happy that I met you when I did and it wasn't then, because I would not be here talking about this in a positive manner. It would have been probably the most traumatic experience of my life.
I was about to say, to show how bad those roaches were, Chris and myself, we toured a deal where the owner called the SWAT team on himself.
Yes.
To remove people from the property. So when we're talking about bad, it gets no worse than that. I mean,
I've seen bad, but it was like I had seen somewhat bad up until that point, and then went into that. And I think if that was like the first one, I think it would have been like,
oh yeah,
I'm out.
No, I get the units that I've gone into. The units that I've gone into have been borderline. It's still my least favorite part about this business. There's some other things that are very close to this, and I will talk about them. The least favorite part about this business is going in and out of hundreds and hundreds of units, because people are pigs, and I'm like a little bit of a clean freak. Like, I'm very detailed, nice, and I hate going in and out of units. I really do. It's truly like, yeah, it's disgusting.
And houses are the same way, man. It's like, I can't believe the house I was just talking about. She's literally living in there. We've got no power, no water, poop on the walls. She bought the house for $150,000 cash. Just
oh my God,
7 years before that. And she's watching a TV. TVs break, and like, so you could like watch half the screen, the other half is like rainbow colors on the top. Sometimes like fuzzy. That's what she was watching with her dog, and like, it's just like, well, how did you get this way? Do you not realize like this is an issue here? Like, is it holy?
I flipped a hoarder.
This didn't happen in a day.
Yeah, that one of the flips I did a flip in Long Island. I did a fix and flip where I literally had to crawl on garbage, and there was about 8-foot ceilings in the house, and there was probably about maybe 3 feet of space to crawl around. It was another disgusting, but it was an old person that passed away. It was not good.
Okay. Well,
yeah, those are great. The porterhouses are always a good time. Oh.
Well, with that being said, I think we'll end it there on a positive note, right? No, I love it. No, the honesty is good. That's why we're doing this. So awesome. Matt, thank you so much for coming on. I think this was hugely important. I think you gave people a lot of insight into what it takes to have a successful wholesaling, flipping business and, deal flow and stuff like that. If people want to reach out to you the same way you reached out to John, what's the best way to do it?
Matt at dynamichomebuyers.com. And that's not the whole thing. It's Matt at dhbmb.com. So you'll put all that in the notes and stuff.
Yeah, cut out a little bit, but we'll add all your contact info in the bottom so people can get a hold of you. But sometimes it's nice to hear it as well.
An email. Shoot an email. I need to get back on biggerpockets.com. That was always a good way to reach out to me. That's how I met John. Chat rooms late night. Bigger Pockets. That's always a great way. That's always a great way too. But yeah, just shoot me an email, give me a call, whatever. Especially if you got some money you want to lend me, that'd be great.
There you
nice
go.
Solid plug. Awesome. Thanks, bud. Appreciate it.
All right, buddy. Always a pleasure.
I enjoyed the podcast.